Got it. So I guess I had an email issue this last week and I didn't even think about it. Ron Frost at the program meeting said, "Hey, I'm trying to email you, but my emails weren't going through because I was trying to talk to him about the program, making sure we had a couple things for me to set up into the slide program." And then today I was trying to go around and look for all the images because I talked to a couple people that sent me images and I had no images and found out that um, my domain was down for about 5 days. So I didn't get all those emails. If anybody here sent me images, I probably don't have them. And you're gonna have to send them back to me again. And I'll talk about this when I write a article and we'll get some more images for next time. But I went ahead and brought back a couple of older ones. So we're gonna go through those a little bit today. And I do have a couple new ones. So let me see which one this is. So our first image is PETA on an anthill. It's this beginner level. Its category is wildlife nature. Be nature wildlife, that's okay. And then I didn't get any information. So I don't know if this was actually entered already into program or into competition, or if it's going to be entered into competition. The image is kind of small. I'm sure it's small on your guys' screen. I can't blow it up, otherwise it'll pixelate really bad. So when you guys are sending me images, feel free to send me something a little bigger that I can display full screen. But that's not an issue with the image per se, just an issue with sending me when you send me images. But let's talk about this for a minute. I really like the layout, the pose. You know, this animal is looking right at you. You almost appear to be almost ground level with the animal, and that makes it very enticing. It really draws you in. I like how the tail just happened to swoop to the side, gives it like a little bit of an S curve that continues with the body and has a good feel to it. Lighting seems pretty good on here. I've got some cheetah stuff. Maybe I've shot mine darker. They seem to have a little bit deeper color, but it's not, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's just more my taste of thinking that the animal's a little bit kind of lightened or washed out, but I don't know if that's actually the case. Now, on the background, it looks like you've either blurred some of the background out back here, or you've replaced the sky, because I can see the little notches and some of the pixelation along the edge. So that there is really the only thing that's going to make this, you know, it's going to bring it down a lot, just because of not being able to straighten that out a little bit more. And that's probably something, if you're working on Photoshop, that's probably something you can fix relatively easy. It's got a little bit of a vignette. So again, I don't know if that's something you added or if it's this blur that's done that. This particular image, I don't think it really needs that vignette. It's not, I don't think it's going to make it more drawn for me to enjoy it if that was just a regular blue sky. But then again, maybe there's something back there that you wanted out of the picture, or something that was distracting and you've taken it out. Now, first thing I'm going to say, from a Nevada camera standpoint in competition, if this is nature wildlife, this will be disqualified because you can't do all this editing for nature wildlife. If this was shot in a zoo, you could still put it in animals, pets, because it would be a domesticated thing. There's I don't know if we've actually had the discussion in Nevada Camera Club whether a range would be a domesticated, fall under the domestication value, but something like San Diego Zoo and San Diego Wildlife Park, that kind of falls a little bit more under domestication. But as far as nature wildlife, this wouldn't be allowed. So that's about the only things. I really like the image. I love the animal. I love the look. I love that he's turning around, looking back at you. So that's great right there. Anybody else like to comment on this?
I got a question, Jerome.
Yes.
From what I'm seeing just to the left of the cat's mouth, it looks to me like there's a little bit of a goober there. If
Okay.
this was in nature wildlife, could you remove that goober?
Yeah, little touch up things like spots or uh dust on your lens, cleaning up, dodging burning, even all that stuff is okay in nature, wildlife, and photojournalism. It's just replacing. It looks like this whole sky has been replaced. That would not be allowed.
Okay,
Or taking out a tree here is technically not allowed, or changing the color. I understand color changes will happen with exposure, and that's not doing anything bad or wrong, but to ultimately go in and change the color or lighten it on purpose, that should be not allowed technically. Did that answer the question, even though I kind of rambled off on other things?
it did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
What about the bullseye-ness of the image? What do you have to say about that?
This being right in the middle,
Right.
I think I kind of like it because one thing we talked about in composition class and beginners group is if you're shooting a person, and I think what came up, we talked a lot about a couple of times, was a flower in a vase. How would you use that? Would that always be, bullseyed, or in the middle? We would call symmetry because it sits right in the middle. But having the head in the top third and the body in the bottom 2/3, or tail at the bottom third, I think that still gives it a little bit of compositional value, even though he is bullseyed right here, he or she is bullseyed right here in the middle from left to right. Cool. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do another wildlife image. Oh my goodness, these are all small. I'm just clicking on one of these other images I want to see. Okay, yeah, so it's just how they were sent to me. So I know a lot of times when I'm shooting wildlife, I will shoot pictures like this because on one hand, I want to go, at least I got something to show that, hey, I saw this. But on the other hand, I'm trying to wait for something really good to happen for it to be, what I would call high quality, or a competition image, or, a sellable image. So I think here we have 5 or 6 sheep, but they're kind of running a little bit rampant. So there's no one direction. It's always, I think, a little more appealing if they all happen to be looking the same way, or happen to be all doing the same thing, or you could see more of them. Whereas you've cut off this one, cut off this one, cut off the front half of that one. This one's a nice look at us, but no body. So I think having that is a little bit too much going on. Exposure looks good. I think you have it over just a little bit, but kind of centered there. So we have a little bit of leading lines coming into the sheep herd, but I think to be overall more competition value, it needs a little bit more work. And even if I'm talking good or bad about images, I always thank everybody for sending stuff. So I don't want anyone to feel like, I've had some people tell me that, oh, I don't want you to talk about my images, or I don't, I'm afraid you're gonna beat up my images. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find, good value and for everyone to move on. So we have a starting point where this could use some work. And then, next time we go out, we hopefully kind of listen to things that I say that are pointing you in the right direction, and you get better images next time you go out. Anybody else have a comment? How many people we got today? Do I see Ron's here?
This is Nick. I have one thing, actually a little less about the image, but about what you were saying about critiquing the image. That's one thing that I kind of was getting from this and wanted to remind myself that sometimes what is a great image when you look at it hanging on the wall, as an example, it isn't as perfect when you judge it for a competition, right? And like you said, the feedback you get is valid and great to learn from, but as you said, shouldn't stop the inspiration that sometimes it's still a great image, but maybe it didn't score a perfect score, as an example.
Right. I know we actually had a beginners group, and I don't know if any of those people are here from beginners group, but we actually had, I think, 4 or 5 people that are, professional photographers. We had someone that was doing some portrait stuff, and a couple people were doing some street people and landscapes, and one guy there was really nice. He just wanted to rebut everything that I was saying for the whole beginners class, which actually I thought made it exciting. A couple people were like, wow, that guy was like, kind of talking back at you.
You handled it very well.
Yeah, so see, Clayton was there. He knows which guy I'm talking about. But for me, I like that stuff. It doesn't bother me. I know it does bother. I mean, I can sit and watch another teacher teach, and some guy like keeps yakking at him, almost kind of heckling him, and I get mad. I'm like, what's that guy doing? But then when it happens to me, a lot of times I kind of feed off that. It kind of works for me, so because I'll just keep going. And he actually came up after the class and said, hey, you did a great job. This was a great class. If you'd like to ever sit down, have coffee and talk about it, I'd love to. So he was always very nice about everything he said. But it was fun. But yes, the same thing, even me as being the teacher up there, I can't get upset. I have to be able to take everybody else's critique in the room and be able to either turn it into something positive to help them, or at least show the rest of the class that, I know what I'm talking about. Even though he has his opinion, I still got mine. And of course, I'm teaching a class, so I feel my opinion is going to be better than his. My whole point I was getting at is we had about 4 or 5 professional photographers in the class for beginners group, which was great. They all came from BNC. But what I was getting at is I brought up the fact that, I was selling my photography when I joined Nevada Camera Club. And then I know other people that have joined as professional photographers, and they get really aggravated with low scores, or, thinking the judges don't have any value to what they're talking about, and they'll quit. And I can honestly say, even though the wedding pictures and stuff I was selling, 35 years ago, I know I can do a lot better now. And I put a lot of that to the value of the camera club, no matter who the judges were or what they said, there's always something to learn from them. But anyway, okay. So enough rambling on. Let's go to another image. Anybody talk.
I was just going to say that, you were teaching a class on composition, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of beauty.
Yes. Speaking of beauty. Oh, I know whose this is. So actually, did we talk about this? This was like 4 or 5 months back. You sent it to me. Did we actually talk about it in there?
Yeah, we did. We talked about the lower left area being just a bit too dark.
Okay.
From what I remember.
Okay. Well, I brought this back because looking at it again, and I I don't remember talking about it before. That's another reason I brought it back. I thought maybe I had missed it, but also I wanted to talk about it again. We talk about a good time of day. And if I cut this right here in half and we look at the left half, I think this is a good time of day for these mountains. A lot of drama, a lot of definition, a lot of, value to the information there. But on the right side, even though this whole thing's done at one time, I know the panorama kind of goes at a curve at Red Rock there. The light here is so flat, we don't really see any definition. So even though this is a good time of day for the left side of the picture, it wasn't a good time of the day for the right side of the picture. And that was kind of why I brought it back as I was looking at it. We have a rule of third at the bottom here. We have a rule of third, maybe a little bit extra sky. Another drawback is that bald sky. It's not giving us any mood or power to help the rest of the image. But I did put this into Photoshop. I have to go in here. So I did a couple changes, just quickie stuff. And that's that one. So, oh, maybe I have it open. Let's see. Yeah, I still have it open. So what I did was I made a couple changes here and going through, I did a couple skies. I kind of like this sky. I felt it added a lot of drama
I agree.
to the bottom part of it, or the mountains even being so bright. I then kind of darkened it a little bit. Like I said, I did all this kind of a little bit fast. So a little bit of saturation, a little bit of darkness. And even though, we kind of had the better lighting on the left side, a little bit more on the right side, I think this changed the whole image feel and the mood. And I think that, made a lot to it. Now, again, nature, that first panorama was shot raw, so that could be entered in nature. Now that we've done this much to it, it's going to have to go into a pictorial category because we've added a lot, adding the sky and all that. But I was just doing this to show, different changes. And then I also thought about, I had like 7 people yesterday at beginners group ask me about Photoshop classes. And I think the only one doing the classes over there is, what's his name? Garrett. Yeah, Garrett Winslow. And someone told me he might be moving away. So I don't know if anybody's doing any classes over there for Photoshop. But, stuff like this is kind of really easy. The sky is a drop in from Photoshop. It's just one of their sky replacement tools. And then everything else I did was just, dodging a burning, making this a little bit darker image.
I like the dodging and burning, but I think your first comment about the left 2/3 versus the right 2/3, it just, my eye gets caught. Well, what was the real lighting out there at that point? Was it truly that different?
Well, yeah, what happens is if this was done probably mid-fall, the sun comes up and it kind of crosses along these, and then this one's a little bit more straight to the sunrise. So I think it's kind of flat in the morning. So when you do that panorama, you're almost you turn your body. So the sun facing this way is actually, or the sun facing this way is more side light on this left side and more of front light on that right side.
If I recall, it was in the morning, and I certainly did not do any masking on either the left or the right hand side. It was all the same exposure across
Yeah.
well, it was a pano also, so the camera did turn.
Yeah.
So maybe it picked up different exposures.
It looks, I've done some of the same ones out there. So actually, I don't know if I have it on here. Did we pull it up at beginners group? Because I think I entered this one in the iPhone, or not iPhone, but the phone challenge we had.
Clayton, I heard your comment there. The few times I shoot pans, I make sure that I lock both exposure and focus, so nothing's changing going across.
Yeah. It's, you know, there's so many things and sometimes it's hard to remember what you need to do to get a good picture, but you know, that's why I'm part of the club.
Yeah, like Steven said, the same thing I was saying. If the sun is rising and it's facing this mountain, it's straight on front light. But when you start, you're starting over here to the left, so it's actually side light for that left side. So the position of the camera as it moves actually also reads the position of the light different.
I agree.
Okay, let's go. Let's see what. Back to this one.
But I like what you did, man. That was great.
So I remember talking about this one. I took two and I kind of just changed them a little bit. And I loved all this church. I think this place is great. I wish I was there doing this image. Of course, I love all the colors in the windows. And I remember talking about this. Now I know it'd be great to keep this candelabra because it kind of, I think, adds to the mood of this whole column, even though this is all reflections from the window. But I remember talking about that. So I took this and I just made it a square. I lost my image. There we go. So I just made it a square, just kind of for fun. I straightened this main column just a little bit, left the two windows in there. I was trying to do things that we talked about in the composition class, using, you know, groups of three. So you have two windows and one, or 1, 2, 3. This is all your three subjects. Now we have this one in the back. I let the color kind of saturate a little more on these and stay bland back there. This is a, you know, rule thirds here. It also falls in the rule thirds there. You've got the leading lines into this point. Everything kind of draws you into this center column. So just doing things for fun today. And not everybody's gonna like all my changes. It was that I talked over somebody. Okay, this is another one that was sent in. This one actually, Ed Stiglitz, Linda Stiglitz, Stephen, you were out there, right? Yeah. Okay, Stephen, Daphne, we all went out and we were playing with some steel wool and some fire, and it was actually pretty dark. This is the moon over here. It's not the sun. So we're doing some long exposures. We're all taking turns who was going to spin the sparklers and who got to shoot the pictures. So this is kind of fun. I like this this kind of fence in the sense that it is a fence for the freeway, but also a fence to kind of keep you in from going out. It's a little bit far into the image, but I know we have to have it to keep this moon over here. Our main image is right here in the middle. I think maybe cutting this off a little bit and cutting this bottom would have been a stronger composition for everything overall. I love all the sparkler stuff. I think this image is a little bit small too, so I'm gonna have to talk to everybody about sending me bigger files. This is train tracks here that are going under the freeway. We're trying to spin the sparklers so they kind of stayed here and bounced back in, and all stayed kind of contained, versus some of them you see they fly all out the sides, which is also kind of cool. So we were just trying to do a different approach to make all this work. Any
I
questions?
think it's a great photo. I think what you did was great. I've seen them before. I think probably a lot of us have seen the steel wool spin fire thing, but this is a great picture. Maybe we should have a meeting that just talks about how to do that to get others to try it.
Sure. The first thing I want to say is be very careful because a lot of people keep burning shit down.
Maybe on the 4th of July or New Year's Eve.
That would be good.
I have one more comment. It's
Yes.
really about a more general comment than the image, the exact image
Oh,
itself.
okay. Okay.
One thing I really enjoy about this, the Judge's Corner, or other moments, is we get to hear a little more about the image. You know, one thing I've struggled with, just personally, that I see a lot of great images, you know, inspiring images from the different things we've done, the competitions and everything else. But we get to hear so little about the image. Now, I understand in
Right.
competition, you can't have who's talking about it. You don't want to be influenced by that when you're judging it. So I'm not critiquing that part at all, just the end result that after, I mean, you remember after being a member for, 4 months or whatever it's been, I would like to hear more about images than just getting to see them and then wondering, what is this? When was it shot? I think almost every image has an interesting story.
Sure.
Just a general comment. I'm sorry. I liked hearing about what this was because when it was in competition, I didn't really understand. I know there was a quick comment by someone after it was judged, but I had no idea what this was of. I
Right.
was curious. and
I've got two
interested.
comments on this image. One is, after what was just said, it's not the duty of the judges to figure out how this was taken. So I think you need to ask afterwards how this was taken. And secondly, if I were to judge this, I would give it a really bad score. I think that you've got the moon way out there. This needs a really tight crop, and I don't know that you could do it or not. So that's my
Ye-
opinion.
Yeah, and I was saying that earlier. It needs to be cut in here somewhere, and all that cut off the bottom. You're right. The moon's over. I mean, unless there was ability to move this way to bring that moon over into here, that would be the only way to do that. No.
And I don't think the moon actually enhances the image because the moon really doesn't, other than saying it's nighttime,
Right.
it does not, to me, benefit the picture at all. My opinion.
That's okay. That's why we're
Okay, Mary.
No, that's why we're here. Okay, so let me see what else I had. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this one for a minute. We talked about this back a while ago. And I remember saying, another place I just wish I was. I mean, to find all these canoes, these colors, this reflection is just amazing.
What's wrong with it?
I don't remember. Well, I'm trying to remember some of the comments I had before. So, and again, not that anything's wrong with it. And I don't want to say that anything's wrong with any image. I'm just trying to say what would help it or make it stronger, if that makes sense. I think this horizon line being right in the middle. Now, a lot of times when we do reflections, we want that horizon line in the middle, or, which vertical or horizontal, because that shows all the reflections. The difference here is that it's not showing the whole reflection. So it's kind of not necessarily a mirrored image. So I feel that this horizon line needs to be either higher or a little bit lower into what we call a rule of thirds. Go ahead. I thought somebody say something. Okay. I did a little bit of cropping just to make changes and see things from a different point of view is all it is. Let me go back to, I gotta reopen this one. It closed earlier, so, oh, I didn't want you to see that yet.
Oh, wow.
I see, stop. So,
I can't take it back. Can't take it
so
back.
I did kind of a panorama crop. For me, you're saying what's wrong with the image? For me, Mary didn't like the moon in the last one. I didn't really like this side of the mountain. I didn't feel it was helping the image because all the interest is these canoes and this boat and this reflection for my point of view. So I just did a quick panorama, which kind of cut out the top of that. And I think this draws you in a lot more to the boat, to the reflections in the water. And again, I love these canoes. I don't want to lose the canoes. I tried to do it as a black and white. And even though I like really rich whites and blacks like this, I think it actually takes away from the image. So I don't think this helps it. I think it makes it too much cluttery. I don't see, the difference as much between the trees and between the boardwalk here and the railing. So I think we lose a little bit with that. But then going a step further and making it kind of sepia tone and lightening out the outsides, I think this really draws you into the boat and to the boardwalk, into the center here a lot more. Now I've put the boat kind of in this third of this panorama and also this horizon line, which is the water line, in the top third. And I think that draws in a lot more. But I'd love to hear your comments.
Can
I'm
I
gonna
see the
comment
original
on it
picture?
because it's my image. I love the mountain when I saw the image. This was taken up at Glacier National Park a few summers ago. And I loved the mountain and I loved the reflection. The color cropping of it, like you mentioned, Jerome, it didn't really speak to me as much.
Yeah.
But I do love the sepia version of it. I think that gives it some good texture. I think that gives it a whole lot of interest. And I like what you did with that image that way. And my friend that I was visiting at Glacier would probably love to have a print of it done this way.
So, and again, it isn't, hey, Jerome said it needs to be this way. It's just different ideas. And all of us have different ideas that go through our heads, so, not that, and I think that scored really well, didn't it, Linda?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I think it scored really well. It probably didn't get 27s and possibly because of me just on one little issue, but that's the whole thing with the impact is, everything can be technically great and just not have that little bit of impact for one judge. It just takes one judge, to bring it up or to bring it down. And that's kind of how.
And what I thought, even when I offered this image, was that it needed more in the sky because the sky was a little bit dull in the original
Yeah.
version. And this was before I discovered sky replacement on Photoshop. So I tried to pull out as much of the sky as I could in the color version. But there are other tools available to me now that I did not have when I originally processed this image.
Right. Cool.
I really like the vignetting that you've also done on this.
I think it helps you it helps to draw you into the boat, to the reflections, to the dock. So very cool. Well, that is all I have for this Judge's Corner session. And I'll write up something in the article and try and get everybody to send me stuff. I know I had like 4 or 5 people that all said they sent me stuff and I just did not get them. But the email's back up and running again, and we will get that all taken care of for next time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that looks
Thanks.
really
Me
nice.
too.